Hello. This video is a demonstration on using a technique kind of like directional scribbling to build up lights and darks on objects. And for today, I'm going to start off with a demonstration on a wine bottle. And it's going to have different values: a dark, a shadow, a gray, and highlights. Let's see. So I'm going to start off with a pencil. This is a 2H pencil. You can start off with a 2B pencil, regular pencil. Make sure it's sharpened. And you know, a lot of people, they draw like this, like they're writing something, words. And that's one way to do it. I'm gonna put this on the tablet. I'm going to pinch it, and I can hold it up close to the tip or farther back. And the farther back I put it, it's a little bit looser. It's a little bit more fluid, a little bit more natural, graceful. And we're gonna start off with just rough lines, okay? So I have an example of an image of a wine bottle on my computer screen in front of me, and that's what I'm following. And I can have an actual wine bottle in front of me if I wanted to. You can as well. So first thing I want to do is establish basic shapes. I don't want to worry about fine details. It's not about perfection from the beginning. It's starting off with rough shapes and basic shapes and laying down a foundation of a layer of gray using this technique. And I don't want it to be perfectly smooth. I want to actually show the lines, show the texture of the lines, and building up those textures in a very natural, very organic, very, loose way. All right, so when I study this picture of this wine bottle, I want to capture the background, just a general background of going from light to dark. But before I get too fancy, I'm just going to establish just a layer of gray. And you can just follow along, just watch. Kind of like a 45-degree angle as my starting point. I don't want to go too dark in the beginning. I just want to kind of establish the overall composition, the direction, the blocking areas of light and dark. I don't know how much you can see that I'm putting down here, but just a light texture. And that's what's nice about the 2H pencil is that it does have some contrast, but it's not too dark right away, like a 4B or a 6 or 8B pencil. And also it won't smudge that much because so you see I'm just sweeping back and forth. There. Now, compared to this area where there's no pencil, it's just the white of the paper, the tone of the paper itself. And now I've made a difference. Now it's a little bit darker in this area. I want to make this area a little bit darker. This is going to be the lighter area. So this is light and this is dark. So I'm going to add in a different direction, 90 degrees. And I'm just going to sweep across, and I'm going to be a little bit lighter with the pressure of the pencil as I move to the right. And look at that. It's starting to get a little bit darker. I'm going from dark to light as I move from left to right. I'm going to turn the paper pad, and then this allows me to add another layer. The more layers of pencil I add, it gets darker and darker. And I want to show the lines. I don't want it to be perfectly smooth. This area is more of a shadow area. This is my lighter area, so I'm going from dark to light, dark to light, dark to light towards this light area. All right, now I'm going to show you a line that establishes the back of the table that this wine bottle is on. So I'll darken in that line. So you see that dark line? That represents the table edge. Okay. And from there, I'm going to make, from that edge up, I'm going to make it darker by putting in more layers of lines, zigzagging across. This area I'm going to just be a little bit lighter with pressure on the pencil, and it just gets lighter and lighter and lighter, moving towards this light area. Turn the pencil again back and forth. So you see the formula is the more layers you put on to the paper, it gets darker. You're covering up the paper surface, the ability to reflect back the light. Turn the paper and have some patience building up the surface. All right, you see the difference from where we started? Dark, lighter, lighter. And I can keep building up the surface. I just want some contrast of the background of the wine bottle, so it's just not floating in space. So this is where our light's coming from on this side. This represents the light source shining onto our object that we're going to draw next. Next, I'm going to draw the wine bottle, the basic shape. So I'll start off with a rectangle representing the body of the wine bottle. There's a rectangle, and then here I'm going to draw another rectangle representing the bottle neck, basic shape. Now you notice I want to add that detail of the wine bottle where the shoulders of the wine bottle curve into the neck. Okay, so how can I do that? I'm just going to go up, round out the shoulders, and then that curve, the graceful curve on the left side of the bottle. And also on the other side, mimic on the other side that shape, that curve. There you go. And on the bottom of the wine bottle, right now it's straight across, isn't it? So I'm going to curve it on the bottom as well. Just give it an elliptical, rounded shape, a little more three-dimensional. And on the top, the reverse, I'm going to make the cap rounded. Well, actually, you know what? Not so much rounded, because it's more close to eye level. So I'm going to just keep just a little bit of curve there, but that's it. Don't make it too dramatic. All right, we've got the basic shape of the wine bottle. There is a label on here, so I want to draw the label, basic shape, which is right across the middle here, close to eye level. So, and in the bottom, I'm going to just slight curve. So this area is our, right now, it's just a white wine label. Okay. So going back to the light source that's coming from this side, shining onto this wine bottle. So this side will be light, and as it curves around the surface, it'll become darker on this side. So what does that mean? That means we're going to add shadow, dark areas on the opposite side of this object in relationship to the light source. So here on the left side, I'm going to go in with our technique, 45-degree angles roughly, and just as I go down, I'm just going to put in a layer of scribbles, directional scribbles, zigzag scribbles. And this kind of removes some of the tediousness of using a ruler or getting these perfectly straight, which is not the point. This point is to be more looser, more painterly, more fluid with your shading technique with these hatched lines. And look at that. Look at that, it got darker. Now, this is the label, so I want to separate out. I'm going to put another layer on top of what we just did, but I'm not going to draw in this area. I want to keep that label lighter. To make this label lighter, I need to make its surrounding area darker. So I'm going to go in and around that label on the left side, I'm going to crosshatch, zigzag. Look at that. Wow. Look at that wine bottle. And on the bottom here, to show that label, to make it look lighter, I'm going to make this area darker. You notice I'm not worried about perfection on this. It's the process of layering, putting down areas of light and dark. The darkness. The light is coming from the original lightness of the paper. And if I want to continue to make it darker, I just go back and keep adding a layer. Now, if I want to make this side a little bit darker, I'm going to put in a horizontal area. Not within the whole shadow, but on the very left, I'm going to make it darker. All right. Gosh, what a very loose and fun way to draw. It's just, it's more relaxed. It's not so uptight, very technical. It's more looser. And you may or may not use this technique. It's really up to you. But I think it's very beneficial for sketching, for establishing your basic values of your scene, your object in space. I can go make the background a little bit darker here. Give it more contrast. Okay, so next, what about the shadow of this wine bottle? So I'm just gonna, in this area right here, this represents the shadow of the light source, casting its light onto this bottle, and then this side of the bottle, there's shadow of the bottle obscuring this light source. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put in just like a horizontal rectangle to represent that shadow area. Done. All right. What's the next step? So this pencil, one of the frustrating things about drawing with pencil, it's graphite and it reflects light. So taking photographs or video, sometimes it's very light on the paper. That doesn't come across on the video. So now I'm going to switch over to an ink pen. Just an inexpensive rolling ball Pilot ink pen. It's like $1.75. And I'm going to use that same technique, but now I have my basic shape there to guide me. Okay. And then this is going to really make it more dramatic, more contrasty. You can use like a 2B pencil, a little bit darker pencil, or a 4B pencil to work with your shadows as well. But for the video purposes, I'm going to go ahead and put this in here. So now I'm going to use that same technique. And I'm going to observe my source image and look at where the dark areas are. So I'm going to go in and put a layer and just focus in on where the shadows are in this piece. And this takes some, practice if you've never done this before, but just give it a go. Practice over and over again. I have my guide of my established pencil drawing. And be patient. Slowly build up your layers. I notice there's a little highlight there. I'm going to leave that alone. Anywhere I want to leave white or lighter, I want to not put pen mark on there. Okay. Now remember this shadow on the label here. I want to put in, there's a little bit lighter area, a little bit darker area. So I'm just going to, less pressure, very light, just sweeping over the surface. Wow. That's just very rhythmic, a light pass. I can use this technique if I like. Hold it this direction. This technique is very good when you have your drawing pad on an easel this whole process, the key here is layering. Layering lights and darks. I'm gonna hold it towards the end of the pen here. So there I have some shadow on the left side of this. Now I'm going to go back to the top here and let's see, what do I want to do here? I'm going to rotate this paper and I want to establish the darkness on this side, the overall darkness. So I'm going to go in and on the left side of this, I'm just going to put in a layer of controlled scribbles, directional scribbles. So going from light to dark. Patience. So as it goes to the light source, just be a little bit less pressure, space out your lines a little bit more. All right, let's go back and let's see. I want to make this side of the wine bottle darker, it's heavier. Okay, let's see. So it's slowly emerging. I'm going to continue here. Let's see, looking at my original, just the lights and the darks. I think this background needs to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to go ahead and put in another layer of dark. One good thing about the video is you can scrub through it. You can move forward, backwards if we want, replay a scene area. So this side is darker. And the darker I make this side, the more dramatic it becomes. So the shape is defined by areas of light and dark rather than just by outlines of the shadows. It's areas of light and dark. So this area is getting lighter by virtue of making this side darker. And it really helps if you study crosshatching with the exercises of the scale, the basic shapes like spheres and cubes. Then you move to something like this and it makes a lot more sense. It's much more understandable because you have that experience already. Basic shapes, organizing your composition, and adding. It's like an additive process of putting on material onto the surface of your paper. I think this is a great technique. It's something that I learned. It's very helpful. It's not as kind of anxiety producing when you use to be perfect with your lines, and every mark is a perfect rhythm. Take a break every once in a while. Hold up your drawing in front of you. Look at it from a distance. It'll give you a little better idea of how you're progressing. I'm really happy with this so far. I'm slowly turning the dial, making it darker and darker as we go along. Now remember, I want to make the darkest area on the left side of this shadow. As it gets towards the middle, it's going to get a little bit not as dark. Let me take it back. There's some areas here in the middle where actually it's pretty dark. We're working on the left side so far. Now there is a little bit of highlight on the left edge of the wine bottle, and I want to tackle that next here once I finish this area right here. So I want to make that little reflection of reflected light here stand out. How do I do that? I'm going to define the area outside of it, which is the table. I want to put in another layer of gray, but I'm going to leave a little gap along the way on that edge, and that represents the light reflection onto that edge. And then we'll go back and define that even further, different direction. But notice that little edge there on that wine bottle, it stands out because I've made the area around it darker. So now the human eye can see that little highlight right there. I'm just going to work my way up here, and you'll notice how this area will become lighter by virtue of making this area darker. So smaller areas now getting to more definition, but using the basic technique, just shorter, more smaller little movements. But I'm thinking still, I don't want to get too precious, get really bogged down in just one small area. I'm looking at bigger areas, medium-sized areas. We'll get into the more details later on, but I just want to demonstrate, look at that. Now you can see that reflection, that edge of that wine bottle. So I don't have to go back and I can't erase this or use some kind of masking or some kind of paint to highlight those white areas. And I want to move that outward, the shadow, so it's not just isolated in one area. So kind of, in a way, blending this whole area as it moves across. So what you're learning are little techniques as we go along. Take them as you will. Use them for what you think is good for you. But I think one key looking at a lot of artwork and things in this process is patience and working within the process. Sometimes when you rush a drawing, especially with cross-hatching or hatch lines, you just gotta slow down and just take the time to trust the process to get you to where you want to be, where you need to be. And sometimes when you just don't spend the time or you're not patient, the results are just very awkward and just not satisfying. They're just very there's just not enough transitions or contrasts of detail or thought that went into the drawing. So remember, this is the shadow right here, so let's go ahead and put in another layer of the shadow here. We're developing the drawing. I don't know if you've ever developed your own film, black and white film, in the chemicals, but to slowly see the darks emerging from the white of the paper. So now we have this area, and our eye sees it as shadow on this side of the wine bottle. Notice we have a variety of darks, lights, and grays within this piece. And this side, it's darker, so I want to go ahead and make sure that as we go to the very left side, it's a little bit darker, and as it moves to the right, it gets lighter. So I'm going to lessen the pressure, put a little bit more space in my scribbles. Move to the right, more compacted, more compressed lines, makes it darker. As it moves to the right, looser, less pressure. Turn the paper, we can 45-degree angle. Here is very dark, and as it moves up, it gets a little bit lighter. So I'm going to transition, create a gradient of cross-hatching. So it's darker here. As it moves up to the right, it gets lighter and lighter. Take a break, give your hands a rest. Sometimes you don't want to, I'm not gripping this pencil very hard, it's just very loose, relaxed. I don't want to be too tense with it. Wow, I'm really happy with the results so far. I'm getting that transition using these straight lines and different angles. You can rotate your angles any way you want. You can, as you even draw, you can kind of move your wrist, your body, your arm, your shoulders to get different angles. But I'm thinking I want to keep this lighter, darker, transitioning, and this overall area darker than this side. And notice how as I make this area darker, it's really giving contrast to the shape of this bottle on the left side. What do you think? Yes? No? Okay, let's move on here. We can always come back to this side, but I want to put a little more attention to this side, the right side. Now, I'll leave the right side of the bottle alone, just demonstrate. Look what happens when we start to put in, I'm not going to put as much dark as this side, but it's going to be enough to show the left side of this bottle. So I'll start off closer to the bottle and just layer in areas of angled lines. I'm not doing 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm connecting it. Look at that. And notice how that, it's not perfectly straight. It's just roughing in this shadow area. It's a great start. And now I can go the other direction, go vertical, and that'll help me straighten out the edge of the bottle. Hey, I'm doing a demo right now. Can I talk to you later? Okay, thanks. Oh, excuse me, folks. There we go. Back to the drawing. And it's so nice to have that initial pencil drawing as a guide. So you build from light to dark, light to dark. Look at that. That is so cool, man. I mean, I know the subject is the wine bottle, but look what you can do by understanding how to draw the context or the background a little bit. This area surrounding the shape or the object you're trying to draw, whether it's a person, a building, and we're starting off with something that's very doable, which is this seemingly simple wine bottle. But once you have practiced this, you can apply this technique to many different subjects, such as figures, man-made objects, designed objects. And I'm going to flow this out, which means it doesn't go from dark to light. I'm just going to slowly go from dark to light. So remember, this is our kind of light area contrast. Let's see, and this, oh, let's do this table surface. What makes this background area different than the table surface is there's a gradient. It gets dark here, and as it moves up, it gets lighter and lighter. So less pressure with the pen as it moves up. Look at that. So this edge is no longer just defined by a line, it's defined by the light and dark shape area. So our eyes see a contrast there between light and dark. So again, this is moving towards that lighter area. So now we have a smoother contrast between shadow and light. Turn the paper. It's like a sewing machine. I'm just turning the paper. And now, be aware, you can be a little bit slower with this. I'm kind of pretty, I don't know why, I got a lot of energy today. But you can slow down a little bit, be more cautious if you want, but I just want to show you that by pushing these contrasts. Let's see here. You can take a ruler if you'd like. Sometimes you don't have to use one, but if you want to just use that to kind of sharpen up your edges, that's fine. Let's stop here and assess what we have so far. I think from the beginning we had a blank sheet of paper, and we walked through this process of shape, basic shapes, going from light to dark, establishing where our light is coming from and where our shadows are. So we made some progress, moving from left to right, dark to light. And we got the basic shape of the wine bottle. Let's keep carrying on here. Let's move on. Let's go. The label here, let's make that stop at this side of the bottle. So this label wraps around. It's just a plain blank label at this point. I don't want to make it too crazy detailed, but okay, so let's go back and do some more work on this. On this wine bottle, there's this, I'll draw out the shape. There's this highlight, the reflection off of the wine bottle, which is this reflection and this reflection. This little zone of, this tells me that I want to keep this the white of the paper. I do not want to make this dark within this area. Okay, here's the bottle cap. Now, the top of the bottle, it goes from dark to light, and then dark again on this other side. Just a little bit of darkness on the right side, and that helps define the right side of the bottle and gives it that kind of highly reflected, shiny quality. So this dark shadow flows down and it spills around the highlight area, the zone of the highest reflection. So it's just gonna kind of flow around that area. So I'm using dark lines. There's a little bit of a gray shoulder highlight there, I'll leave alone, and then keep looking at the core shadow, the darkest area, dark gray, and that's going to define the highlight of this bottle. Now I want to make this little highlight area stand out a little bit more, so I'm going to, what do? We define the area around it, make it darker to make that area lighter. See that little area there, that little detail? Go back in, just flow in the shadow, it flows down the bottle. Here's the end of the label here. There's that dark shadow that I see in the original photograph. And here's our highlight. There's this reflection right here. Well, we'll leave that alone. I'm going to concentrate on the dark shadows. I'm going in different directions, layering. On the bottom of the bottle, it's a little bit darker because it's recessed, it's curving underneath the shadow area. So let's go ahead and put in some overlapping crosshatch, curve the pen movement to echo. And as it moves up, it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. I want to make the shadow a little bit darker. Sometimes shadows have different values within the lights and the darks. So I'm going to start off a little bit darker towards the part of the shadow that's closest to the wine bottle. And as it moves to the left, it's going to get lighter. That's just the quality of the shadow. Sometimes you'll have very flat shadows, very strong contrast, like midday outside. Sometimes it's a little more elegant, a little bit more delicate transition. Wow, so far I'm really happy with this. Now you see the label, it's established. I want to go back in and define outside of this label here, just because I wanted that label to be sharper. Look at the power of this layering technique. It's very loose. I don't really care if it's like I make a mistake here or there, like it doesn't matter, but just I'm looking at the overall direction of the light flowing in the flowing in the dark areas. I'm almost in a way, kind of just as a analogy, if you ever painted before, think of it as a paintbrush. You're just brushing in dark areas of gray, layering over and over each other, and it slowly gets darker and darker. Controlled scribbles. Controlled scribbles. And I'm thinking about light and dark, light and dark. And we really haven't touched the label that much, but look how much it stands out. Okay, so within this label, I want to push the contrast a little bit more. So there's a light area over here, very bright area over here, but there's a little bit more gray tones right here. So what I'm going to do is you can choose an angle, but I'm going to just drop down this layer of shadow and just slowly bring it down in this area. And that's going to give it more of a three-dimensional quality, of a cylindrical quality to it. It's that this bottle is, the light is bending across the curvature of this wine bottle. That's the illusion. Better, look at that. I'm lifting the pen this time and giving it a little more curvature. And here on the bottom of the bottle, I want to make that label more distinct from the darkness of this bottle. So I'm going to bring in a dark shadow on this side, kind of mimicking this area right here. I don't want to mindlessly do this. I'm looking at the original once in a while, making sure that I'm on track. And for this demonstration, this purpose of demonstration, I'm really making sure that this area logically is the dark area. And look at that. The more darker you make it, you're pushing this light, push and pull, light and dark, light and dark. I'm going to go back up here, and along this area right here, I'm going to make it a little more solid, a little bit darker. Because I really want to make that highlight stand out. I want to bring some clarity to that highlight. Isolate this highlight area, this reflection on the wine bottle. And I'm just take my time and breathe, and I'll make it a little bit gray right there. Now you don't want to do this, if you don't want to do this in all in one setting. I mean, you could, this process, you can work on it for 5 minutes, go do something else, come back 5 minutes, back and forth, back and forth. But the more time and effort you put into describing the surface, you get some interesting results. So the center of this bottle is pretty dark. So I'm going to go ahead and make this center of this bottle dark. Going in different directions. Just a really heavy, rich, dark bottle here. Look at the variety of grays, the illusion of grays that we've created. We're looking at areas of light and dark. Let's slow down here. Just slow down. Observe. Practice. Connecting your idea, your brain, Let your eyes or your mind guide where you want to make it dark and light, and your hands and arms will follow. The pen will follow your thoughts. Be open to practice and making mistakes. Do it again, practice again. If you have any questions, put them in the comment area. Hmm. Getting to the end here, guys, for now. So I want to wrap it up here with, I want to define this back shadow area a little bit more. So this is the edge of the table we began with, and I just want to make that area darker, just to separate out the background from the foreground table. Okay, I think that's gonna do it. I think I'll just put that down. So I hope you enjoyed that demonstration. I really had fun sharing that with you, this process, and hopefully it can be a benefit to you, just to realize that, just to see a different technique, just build on what you've learned in the class so far in terms of shape, form, now getting into light and dark with some more advanced cross-hatching, hatch lines. And remember, later on, the more you refine this, we start to move into more refined shading with pencil technique, and that's for a future video. But just slowly building on the techniques you've learned so far, we're progressing into more challenging things. Takes more time and energy to really bring out and put together all the things we've covered so far, such as shape, composition, perspective, text, a little bit of texture, and also understanding just basics of light and dark and how it can really benefit you in bringing out the three-dimensional qualities on a two-dimensional surface, your subject matter. And you can, whether it's you're using pencil or pen, or later on, other media markers, they really overlap and help to inform you to improve your skills, your drawing skills.